what excites me is folks like your company that are going to leverage technology to allow us to do our jobs and to see more patients and to help more people, because they're not producing enough doctors, they're not producing enough providers, and so we've got to be more efficient and better with our time and our energy and technology. That excites me.
Alex, Don, thank you so much for joining us. I want to start with you, Alex. You're a lawyer by profession and by trade, but now the CEO of Just Kids Pediatrics. How did you get into it?
Well, yeah, like you said, I am shockingly a lawyer by occupation, by trade, by education, and a healthcare administrator by marriage. My wife's a pediatrician and our founder of Just Kids Pediatrics, and we started Just Kids 11 years ago, I think now, and it was a side hustle. It was a thing where she was a hospitalist at our children's teaching hospital in Oklahoma City, and 7 days on, 7 days off. Sounds okay, but when you're on, you're on, and when you're off, you're on. And just for our family, it didn't work great. And so we were pregnant with our third kid, and made the decision, hey, let's try to do some outpatient peds. There was a lot of retiring and older pediatricians in the area where we grew up. And so started a part-time 3 half days, and it just kind of spiraled out of control. And now we see a couple 100,000 patient visits a year, and just here we are.
And Don, how did you get to know Alex? How did you get to know Alex and get into this space as well?
Yeah, I mean, it was 12 years ago now. 6 months before they saw their first patient in their side hustle pediatric clinic, they had reached out to my former boss, who was CEO at a health system in Oklahoma City, and I was the junior executive on the team. And a good CEO never really says no to a request for help. And Alex was connected to that health system, and
Really through my law practice.
right, and
my dad.
Instead of saying no, he punted it to my desk. And Alex likes to say that anytime there was a flaming pile of dog poo, he says other things, but put on a CEO's desk, he just moved it over to Don's. And that was really my
I was
role.
the flaming pile of dog shit.
Yeah. So, I met Alex and Angela, and they were needing some help just getting their independent practice going. And we've been friends ever since. He's kind of like a fungus. He sticks around.
Can't kill it.
You can't.
It's like a cockroach.
There's not enough salve.
No, we got to do something.
But yeah, so, they had, really, really good idealistic hopes and dreams, and wanted to do something different and something meaningful. And I liked the sound of that. And so I just helped them get going at that time. And then about 5 years ago, became an official partner. And we've been trying to grow and figure out the best way to deliver healthcare, specifically pediatric care in our market, and try to do something meaningful and
make the next good decision.
It really is. It's just,
The idealism, as I said earlier, has really been the healthcare system beats the idealism out of you, and so you got to invigorate yourself every once in a while to remember your why, because it can get away from you pretty quick, because it is around every corner is a hurdle, a roadblock, someone trying to kill you, and whether it's government payers, insurance companies, subspecialists, health systems, the economy, COVID, go down the list of stuff. And so it's good to have a partner like Don that we can just drink bourbon and figure out, oh gosh, what are we going to do next?
What's the next decision to to survive and or thrive.
Yeah.
You know.
So to take it back to the start, which looks like about 10 years ago, getting to a couple 100,000 patient visits a year is no joke. I'm sure hundreds of hurdles, a bunch of setbacks, bunch of things that you didn't expect to happen, and they happened. I'd love to hear the story about how you took it from your, call it, ground zero to your first couple visits, your first couple hundred, and then now today to a couple 100,000.
It's crazy because we didn't, everyone's like, well, did you have a business plan? Did you lay out your scheme and you're going to do this many clinics this year and that? And
it's not your style.
That's not how I function. I mean, Don's a little more of a planner and a plotter than I am. To use the baseball example, which we've used all throughout our time doing this, we just try to hit it where they weren't. So if there is, there's a heavy concentration of pediatricians around a hospital, well, we don't have to be next to a hospital. We need to be where people get care, which is in their communities. Mm-hmm. We never shied away from the Medicaid population. We leaned into the Medicaid population when others, including his former boss, said, there's no way you can make money doing that or stay afloat doing that. But those underserved populations, they needed help. They needed help more than our kids need help, or as much as our kids need help. And so it just kind of, we found an opportunity, and then another opportunity, and then another opportunity. And it is not all rainbows and butterflies, I can assure you. But we had my wife, who is a rock star, Dr. Jordan Pope, who joined us right after she finished her residency. Dr. Sarah Palm, and Pope and Palm are now our medical directors. Bunch of dum-dums that believed in my wife for some reason and has hung on for 11 years. But they're easy to like, and patients love them. So if you don't have a good product, it doesn't matter what your vision is. You gotta deliver.
Yeah,
and those gals deliver.
I think
every day.
That the inside of all of what you just said there, and knowing our stories, there's some counterintuitive ideas that they were stupid enough or brave enough to test, and
it was stupidity.
And it really is, pediatrics is not really a sought after subspecialty in terms of financial margins and or how you, if you're a health system, how do you
monetize it,
and grow within a market. Peds is not how you start that. Going into underserved, lower income areas, that's counterintuitive. And then the people. I mean, you talked about our providers and that we love and that were instrumental early to get the thing going. I mean, you can't really undervalue or even try to budget the impact of these specific individuals involved in an initiative. And he was very fortunate to get some providers early on that set the brand, set the expectations, set the pace.
And that wasn't good fortune. That was my wife who helped train these gals, and now they're training her. Really, I mean, they're just incredible.
And one thing that we haven't talked about much is we've just said we're into pediatrics, and there's an element of primary care and urgent care that people ask, well, are you one or the other? And that was actually one of the early conversations that Alex and I had 12 years ago when they were trying to open, are we going to be one or the other? And we, 12 years later, are still answering that question. We do both at the same time. And so that's something that's unique to our model. I think help those counterintuitive investment theories work.
We want to be a patient's home.
Yeah.
Their healthcare home. So if you are in urgent care, yes. Are you a primary care? Yes. And what also we expanded into occupational and physical and speech therapies, and do adult primary care as well, and do some occupational medicine, and Orthopedics is a new thing that we just brought on, and it's interesting. And I don't, sorry to interrupt you, but and it's funny that we're at this AI, fueled company, but what we are going to talk about and what's the most important to us is the people. And I guarantee you would say the same thing. Even though the technology you leverage, you can't do it without people and good people.
Yeah, people that care and show up and
we can't
buy
pay.
in.
Don always talks about you can't pay people enough for their give a shit. Like there's not enough money in the world.
You can't change it if it's not there, and if it is there, you really can't increase it.
It's
through
cool.
compensation anyway.
Yeah. No, that's I think you nailed it. And in fact, caring is one of the things that we screen for when we bring people in, and that's why we do it. And we get to work with incredible folks like yourselves, and that's what makes all the long hours worth it, right? You spoke about the Medicaid population, and I think that's so fascinating because, to your point, your intuition may not say go start with that population, but that's where care is actually needed, right? Talk to us about some of the challenges you ran into, because I'm sure it's not like overnight you went into that population, you figured out how to monetize it, and I'm sure there's a lot of iteration that went into that.
Well, if you don't focus on, and this is because I'm a brilliant business person, and you're about to hear how brilliant I am as a business person. If you don't focus on the money part, then you focus on helping people, providing good care, surrounding yourself with great people, then you don't have to worry about, okay, well, I'm getting paid 90% of Medicare rates, or I'm getting 30% less than a commercial payer. If you focus on that, then all you're going to think about is, well, I don't want to see this Medicaid kid because there's a Blue Cross kid that I could see, and so I'm not going to fill that space with a Medicaid kid. If you just focus on taking care of people and taking care of families, all the other stuff works itself out.
Make it sound so easy.
And then COVID hits, and then
right.
People leave, people move, people. But if you still focus on why you're doing it and the why and the people, then the financial stuff, knock on something, so far has worked itself out.
Yeah, I think obviously running healthcare clinics is no different than a lemonade stand. I mean, you have revenues and you have expenses, and those things need to be, on the right side of things at the end of the day. And so we have guidelines or, thresholds that dictate when can we spend and when can, what do we need to do to affect revenues. And they get naturally ingrained into the culture because it's part of the mission has to be supported by the financial outcomes. And so, yes, pediatricians, for the most part, are typically female. Not all of them. We have some great male pediatricians in our organization, and make certain that we mention that. But most of the time, they are attracted to that specialty because they really do care and they are selfless. They didn't get into pediatrics because it was the most financially advantageous specialty to go into. So they're mission-minded first. And
it's awesome.
And then helping them say, okay, well, that's great. And we can say yes, and we can spend some extra time with families and kids that need it. But we still have to make certain that we're seeing about 3 patients an hour. And we need to find an efficient way to utilize nurse practitioners and physician's assistants and things like that.
And
technology. All those things have to kind of be balanced. And I would tell you that there's not a recipe written. There's not the KFC secret recipe in the Just Kids closet. We're negotiating that every day.
And changing every day.
Right.
And thinking about it every day.
Right.
And screwing up every day. And sometimes getting it right. Not every day.
Well, this is probably going to lead us on a tangent, but that renegotiation of how do we balance all these things in our organization, because of Angela and Alex and the way they started it, those decisions come back down to our core values. Everything that we do or don't do, or the decisions that we make, are based on a set of core values that everybody knows about and believes in, because it drives hiring, firing. When we say
Promoting,
yes,
discipline,
right.
Everything. It's easy because, in the last 11 plus years, there has not been one scenario that we couldn't lean on those core values and say, okay, where do we go from here?
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing what some of these values are for folks that may be interested?
Well, one of them is
test. You're gonna have to pass the test. List them.
Yeah, well, there's 14.
First
of
one's
them.
your
Toilets and tonsillectomies. If you say this is that's not my job, then this is probably not the job for you. And it also goes with be frugal with resources.
Talk more about
cheap.
the toilets and tonsillectomies.
So
there's no because in healthcare, I think there is sometimes a class system between I'm an executive or I'm a provider, and that's just someone who works our front desk or fixes our toilets.
If you are in our organization and the thought, the words, the actions of that's not my job, that is the quickest way to exit our organization. And that means, well, the toilet paper is out. I'm not going to change it. There's somebody that will change it. The light bulb's out. If I'm going to do it, if our doctors are going to do it, everyone in our organization can do it. That also means that our facilities folks that maintain, that paint, that do flooring, that make sure the toilets function and the water works and the air conditioning works, they're just as important as our physicians. They have different roles, and I'm not going to ask our maintenance folks to see patients. But if they don't work, our organization doesn't work. Our we call them PEPs, our front desk and call center folks, patient experience professionals. They set the tone, and they're just as big a part of the clinical staff as medical assistants, nurses, providers. Because if you have a bad experience walking into our front desk or a bad experience on the phones, there's a barrier to get good care. And so, we focus on those core values. We focus on kind of the team approach.
We'll go down the list because you leaned into that first one.
Be frugal with resources, but not cheap. One of the things that we talk about all the time is we get approached with a new test or a new device or a new whatever. And if you've heard me say it once, you'll hear me say it 1,000 times. If it's the right thing to do and we can break even, let's do it. We're not looking at margin. We're looking at doing the right thing and breaking even. Because we know that even if it's the right thing, but we lose money, we're not going to be around for very long. And then what does that do for our patient population?
Can't see them. Yeah.
Urgency.
Yeah, I mean, that's I forget the actual phrasing, but
urgency is the price of admission.
Price we pay to play. I mean, that's another one of our core values. Don't stand around waiting for something to come to you. You go attack it. And I know that Don is the strapping football player, but
that was a long time ago.
I'm tall now, right?
Yes.
We look the same. Yeah. But I had a high school football coach once say, if you better screw up, but you better screw up at full speed. So
it's okay to screw up.
Yeah, it's okay to, because we're all going to screw up. We're all going to mess up. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to do it, but don't do it by looking around, worrying about making a mistake. Go try to make the right decision. And if it's a mistake, move on, but do it at full speed.
Yeah.
So there's some of
them
core values.
Hey, man, it just seems like one of them is referenced every day.
JKP is a part of us, not all of us.
Mm-hmm. So there's grace that we extend to our employees.
It is a family.
Yeah.
And it's cliche and it's stupid, and I get it. And it was easier when there was 10 of us, and now there's 250 of us. But there's not a day that goes by that we don't know about someone's struggles. It happened this week.
Yeah.
And also someone's milestones,
wins, and
and we celebrate those together. And when people move on from our organization, it happens. It sucks. It hurts my heart every time.
No matter the person or the situation, it always. And I think that's, culture is such a difficult thing to define and promote.
You gotta live it
in any organization, and it's easier for us because I do think it was, started by a married couple, and with, what do you say, benevolent dictatorship.
Yeah, I'm a benevolent dictator.
And so really, organizations tend to take on the personality of their leaders, and it does feel, for better or worse, people get adopted as employees, and especially the longer they stay and lean in and recognize that, if mom or dad is not in a good mood that day, it's not because of them doing something wrong. It's because that we care and we're trying to make this work for everybody. And they start to trust the intentions. They trust the way that we make decisions. And I don't know. It's we have talked as we've grown. Like I said, from the 10 employees to the 250, and the one location to the now 12, and more next year. We don't want to lose that. We really don't want to have a big, a non or like an executive level, or
we don't want to be a health system.
Yeah, we
don't. We don't want to be a clerk level 2. And this is your, we hate titles too. I mean, you, I guess, introduced me as the CEO. No one would hire me, so I had to start my own company to make myself CEO. But we don't care about titles. That bothers people, and it's very countercultural to healthcare.
Yeah.
Everyone needs a title. What's my title? The title. What's the title? Well, I'm going to introduce myself to people. I need to know what my title is.
Yeah.
If you're there, if you're in the arena, you don't need a frickin' title.
In our world, for sure.
In our world.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care if you come over and you say, well, I'm the CEO of Athelis or whatever company you're the CEO of. That doesn't impress me. You will impress me.
Yeah.
Or you won't.
That's right. Yeah, very unique values, and yeah, I mean, I think without values, you can't build the identity, and so appreciate you jumping into them. I'd love to hear about some of the more, one part I think is so powerful is some of the patient outcomes and patient stories, right? Of some of the work you've done in under-resourced communities, or just in general. If you have one or two that you wanted to share about just the impact you've had on patients' lives, that'd be incredible.
You know what the most amazing thing is, and Amy McClendon, who's our longtime nursing director, and her and another gal named Heather Underhill, if you had to give them titles, they would kind of be the COOs. They're the operators, yeah. Right? But Amy talks about, and this is the nurse's heart, right? She talks about the win of when we see a couple hundred patients on a Saturday and a Sunday, and in our extended hours. She goes, those are however many hundreds of people that don't have to go to the ER, that we kept out of the ER, that were that those families in the ERs didn't have to see a strep or a flu or something that could be managed outpatient. And so those victories happen every single day. that we provide preventive care, that we're able to navigate occupational therapy and speech therapy and physical therapy and now orthopedics and transition care from a 17, 18-year-old to our adult Your Health brand. So, is there some magic, great, heroic story? No, it's every single day grinding, keeping the preventive care is just as important as, saving somebody that's having a heart attack or, gets in a car wreck or all those things. Because if you can do that right, then maybe it's not as, you're not going to write a movie about it.
Yeah.
But that's the hero stuff that happens all day, day.
Yeah. The keeping so many families out of the ER unnecessarily because of, access and availability and close to being in their neighborhoods is a big part of the value to the patient. Pediatrics,
and the community.
The pediatrics is, I've learned a lot about the subspecialty. My background is a lot of orthopedics and adult primary care, and getting to know our pediatricians and success to them clinically. Their success is really not getting the monotony of kids that are healthy and being able to recognize one that is very, very sick. And so it is something they take extreme pride and care to educate and make certain that every provider in our organization has the ability to be successful in that regard. Always double check with another provider to bring in a second opinion and
very collaborative.
Our providers are able to communicate across our various locations if they need. Hey, this is a rash I'm not used to seeing. I want to pull in our RAS subspecialist within our pediatric group, I think they do an incredible job of that requirement. And unfortunately, sometimes kids do get very, very, very sick, and catching it quickly is critical. Yeah. And so it's something that I'm proud to watch our medical directors and all our providers just handle like professionals.
It's really cool.
Yeah, it is.
So I'd be amiss if I didn't talk a little bit about the technology side, because I think it's what we live every single day. I'm sure you guys juggle 50 different systems and platforms and scheduling and texting, and it's an entire operation that you're running, especially at your scale, across 10 plus clinics. How do you think about managing that while keeping up that quality of patient care that you talk about every single day?
Well, we talk about it often. In Don's former life, doing a lot of adult stuff and orthopedics, and you have an aging population, right? Well, in pediatrics, your population's always young, and I'm not talking about just the patients that we treat, because and Don will talk about this. We have both patients and customers. They're two different things, and the customer is generally the guardian, the parent, the mom. 90+% of healthcare decisions of children are made by mom, and that includes if we have male pediatricians and nurse practitioners that actually provide care, but mom still makes the decisions on healthcare
for their own children,
for their own
You're
kids,
right.
and that's how that works. So we're lucky that we have a population that's young, that is eager to embrace technology, not say, I want a clipboard and a piece of paper, but the challenge that we've had is finding a platform and what we're now doing is have 100 bolt-ons to, hey, we want to text, hey, we want to do this, hey, we want to do that, hey, we want online check-in, hey, we want online scheduling, and we haven't been able. And so over the years, we've just added a bolt-on, and so we've got a gal who's kind of our internal informatics, IT.
Swiss Army knife.
She's a Swiss Army knife. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's just a utility infielder, outfielder. But she's got to manage 8, 10, 12 systems, and it's painful, but it's important that we make it easy for our patients to get to see us, and even as important, maybe not more important, but as important, to leverage technology, which gets us excited about your platform. Leverage technology to make our staff, our physicians, our providers be able to not worry about the computer and not worry about charting, but worry about what they're trained to do and highly skilled at and really good at, which is taking care of patients.
You know, it's an interesting paradigm that you just kind of touched on there. Is like the more we embrace technology, another platform, another bolts on, it actually is less visible to the patient. It's making what should happen more of the show. I'm not looking at an iPad. I'm not looking at a screen. Yeah, I've done a lot of this.
Yeah, we tell our kids to get off the screens, and all we're sitting there doing in a visit is sitting in front of a screen, not even.
And my provider is not. They're looking at me, not looking at a screen.
Yeah.
Like, so that's an interesting dynamic of where will technology go, and what are the consumer's expectations. I don't know that we've made our decisions to adopt a new technology based on the customer or the patient's expectations. It's more about making it easier to come in, making their the time in the clinic efficient.
Because if it's painful for them to get here and to come see you and to get their kid help, then they're going to be hesitant and resistant to come back and to get help.
So I think about two that we've added specifically. When you think about them as technology solutions, they're really simple. Are the ability to text with our patients. The patients don't know that's a technology platform on our side, but if you think about it from a logistical perspective within our organization, we have direct communication with almost 100,000 patients that could potentially text us, and we need to make certain that someone's texting them back appropriately, that it's managed and ticketed. That was a real logistical issue. The technology is nothing fancy. So the same idea, we had to,
and no one that is, under the age of probably 50, they don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah,
you don't want to talk on the phone. You don't want to just text me. Just
right.
I want to schedule online. I don't want to have to call and schedule an appointment. What a pain in the ass that is.
Yeah, online scheduling, the ability to text with us, the ability to manage triage and ensure that we followed up with someone who's left us a voicemail. I mean, that was a logistical infrastructural challenge for a while. For a decade or so, healthcare at large was really, really focused on the patient portal and the idea of what that was. But then in a market like Oklahoma City, where there's 4 or 5 different big health systems, that everyone now has 5 different portal logons, and it becomes a challenge to the consumer rather than the provider. And so we don't succeed because of our patient portal. That's really part of our platform and all that. But we are fortunate that if we do need to give them an iPad or ask them to register on their phone, or our people, our patients, and are completely fine with that.
And when you think about pediatric practices, I mean, you guys have gone to a scale which I think is pretty unique, and for folks that are thinking of building it up, or really any specialty, but that are in the early stages of building up their practice, what are pieces of advice or things that you've seen that you're like, hey, man, I wish someone told us this when we were building it up, that you think would be helpful to talk about? Well,
it goes back to people. Hire slow, fire fast. Hire for culture. hire people that you want to spend time with, because you're going to be spending a lot of time with these folks. And so, our secret sauce is not that we're some brilliant business people. I always joke about my brilliant business degree. It's in political science. But one of the things that you can't outrun and you can't undo or get ahead of is culture and people. And you can have 99 out of 100 great folks, and if you have one, it will spoil the bunch, and that one will make the other 99 leave. And so we've got to be celebrating folks that are winning and doing good and championing our cause, their cause, and also not allowing people that are bringing them down to stay around. Because what'll end up happening is we'll keep the bad one and run off the good ones if you don't get rid of the bad ones. And so I just, culture, people, not being afraid to take a risk and fail. It was the worst thing in my entire life. I was like, we're never going to close a clinic. We're never going to close a clinic, because that just shows defeat. And we've closed a clinic. I think only one.
Correct.
Because it didn't make sense. And Don and I sat around and we're like, we can either eat this lease for another few years, or eat the lease and the employees and so it's okay to fail, because that means you're in the arena, you're doing something.
Yeah. I'm trying to just reflect on like advice. One of the things that because he's never actually had a real job, he doesn't know is different about us. We're very, very, we make decisions extremely quickly, very fluid. It's not the blue ribbon panels that have to get organized to make it, and then you got to run that through the board, and then
post meeting.
We don't operate like that, and it has allowed us to grow quickly. It allows us to take a loss and move on to the next one. Advice, if you're just getting started, I know you probably asked it from a technology lens of how would you start out, or what mistakes would you, and I think we can talk about early mistakes technology wise, but you have to move quickly. You have to make decisions quickly and be willing to take some risk and don't admire problems is kind of a secondary related to moving quickly. Don't be passive. I think that's.
But also don't press. Right.
So many things that you and I talk about all the time.
And I'm not saying that there's not an opportunity for meetings and there's not a place for meetings and all those things, but to have a meeting, to discuss a meeting about a meeting, it just is not go work for a health system, go be in a health system. Yeah. I mean, and you can have 94 layers of managers to say, it's like Office Space on the TPS reports. Right. I've been told by 45 people that you were putting a cover page on the TPS reports. Mm-hmm. And why do you need 85 layers? And part of our secret sauce is we have a pretty flat management style. Like we're not this hierarchy where you salute when I walk in the door or when Don walks in the door. It's we're going to grab a shovel with you.
I think you should institute a salute policy now.
I agree. We're going to salute. Yeah, like we're the.
No, I just need you to salute me.
That's true. It's middle finger work.
Yeah, that was. From a technology perspective, it costs money to change. At least that's been the story in our market for the last 30 years. So right now, I mean, your EHR platform drives so much of what you can and can't do. And we would love to assess other platform changes, but for an organization like ours that is doesn't have community subsidies or tax revenues or anything, it's coming straight out of our pocket and
or from the bank.
From debt. Changing is expensive.
And sometimes you can't afford not to change.
Right.
Like you have to bite the bullet and do it because it's the right thing to do, even if it's going to.
So I don't know if there's any advice in there. Like
there's zero advice. Get out of healthcare. Do not get into healthcare. Do not open a business. Do not do anything. It is the worst idea.
Don't
ever.
Change unless you have to change.
Like
that's really good advice.
It happened. You go bald. You get gray.
Yeah.
I'm 12 years old.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you get in. Don used to be like look really good and tall and athletic, and then he comes in
downriver.
God, it's so bad. So that's our advice: is to get out while you can.
Right.
Go work for somebody. Punch a time clock.
But now that you're in it, and you guys,
we can't get out.
It's expensive to stop. We when it got very difficult and in COVID, and we've had unique challenges in the state of Oklahoma that impacted our business, and we're like, man, like we're not making enough money to quit to shut this thing down because expenses just run out. So that's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah, like I said, stay out. don't get in.
Yeah, don't get in.
But what are you guys the most excited about? So you look forward, right? And you're like, okay, you guys are a couple 100,000 patients today. What gets you excited, right? To think about the next, call it, couple years, as you think about your growth or practicing or whatever gets you excited.
Well, you want to go first?
I'm going to say one thing, and I want you to run with the baton. What excites me is that right now we're having fun. The pain, the challenges actually make it enjoyable in a weird, sick and twisted way. So what gets me excited is not a 5-year growth plan or an attack strategy to grow horizontally or vertically. All those things are on the table. But right now we're having fun.
Yeah.
And that's what excites me.
100%. Like there was a health system in the Oklahoma City metro area that just laid off 10% of their workforce. They are underwater. They lost their bond rating. It is a dumpster fire, even worse than us.
Yeah. We can call them that because we are one.
Yeah.
We know what that looks like.
We're in the same bucket.
Okay.
Except no one will give us bonds. It's a weird thing. But what, and I say that because there was an opportunity that arose that a long time, 30-year orthopedic PA that got laid off, and he was doing orthopedic urgent care. And we had a discussion like, that's a good bolt-on and a good service to our clinics. Same thing with speech and occupational therapy and physical therapy. We didn't seek that out because it was like, this is a good growth opportunity and there's lots of margin in those therapy units, because there's not. But what happened was we couldn't get our patients into those modalities, so we had to kind of build it ourselves. Behavioral health is something that we struggle with in all of our communities, but definitely in Oklahoma, to get psychiatry, psychology, therapists, and it just doesn't exist. So we've looked at opportunities to expand and grow in that space. What excites me is people like you, people like your company, or folks like your company that are going to leverage technology to allow us to do our jobs and to see more patients and to help more people, because they're not producing enough doctors, they're not producing enough providers, and so we've got to be more efficient and better with our time and our energy and technology. That excites me.
Yeah, that is. I do believe, I mean, healthcare is slow to change, and really hasn't been disruptive change in quite a while. I do believe we are on the verge of something really being different. I decided to invest, pretty heavily into healthcare in our partnership around COVID.
Brilliant.
Yeah. When, the external forces that were in our world were saying, man, things are going to change, at least in the short term, that may have long-lasting impacts. And in our world, it was, man, people are now going to finally embrace telemedicine.
We're forced off the ledge.
Right.
I mean, and you did a podcast. I forget the folks that did it, but in pediatrics, it's a little bit different than other specialties because there is a physical exam component that's really important,
Right.
Like veterinary medicine, where the patient can't always tell you what's going on. So the physical exam is really important. But if COVID didn't happen, I would have drank a lot less bourbon, but we would not, as a society, have leaned into virtual visits and virtual healthcare. And what it does is it allows access to a greater number of people. And when it's appropriate, use it.
Yeah, and I think that at the time, if I would have been, talked to, brilliant business people, like, hey, don't invest into, on-site outpatient medicine, because telemedicine is going to make it where these providers can provide care from anywhere. And yes, we saw a ton of telemedicine during that year and a half. And we still have kept some of it, but it's really come down in our specialty specifically because of what he talked about with mom still wants someone that is trained and credentialed to look at and touch and make a physical exam. That's still something people expect. AI, I think, is causing similar conversations. What is it going to do to provider decisions and assimilating results and from tests and/or imaging? And is a provider's role going to be enhanced or diminished? And I don't think we know the answers to those questions, but I know my wife, and we have 3 children. If there's an issue, we still want that human interaction, that human interpretation, and someone to care, someone to react real time in a human capacity. Hopefully, the changes that come through technology are going to create opportunities for more connection.
Yeah, that's my
more availability.
That would be my prediction, and I quit predicting a long time ago.
And I would assume that if your business and your proprietors and your investors if they looked at our organization and said, okay, well, you've got a pediatric clinic that's grown in the last 10 years, 1 location to 10 locations, and they want to grow. If someone gave us $50 million tomorrow and said, I want you to expand in the state of Oklahoma to double your capacity, financial investment is not the limitation. It's the availability of labor. There are not enough providers for us to do that overnight. We can only grow as availability of providers are there. It creates a barrier to entry to competitors in our market. It creates a barrier for our growth. We could absolutely, our model works, our margins work, our culture is working. We could be much bigger tomorrow. But recruiting and retaining the right people there's no shortcut.
Which is why you said culture is just so important.
But if technology allows us to take our same amount of providers and increase our capacity,
more. Yeah.
Yep.
That is an intriguing value proposition, or meeting a need that exists in our community. Whatever way you want to look at it, whatever driver you want to look at it, it's positive.
The thing that we hear a lot is we talk to the different groups that we work with. It's that documentation burnout time, where if you're able to give back 2-3 hours a day, you reduce the burnout because you're rate limited on talent, but more than that, people are excited because they really care about that patient interaction and they can focus on that patient interaction.
That is, if our physicians and providers and nursing staff could punt their computers and throw them in the garbage can and just focus on what they're good at, which is taking care of people.
Yeah.
It is a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
When your team came down and met with us a couple months ago, I hate meetings. I walk around. I am just my ADHD overwhelms me. So I had fully intended during this meeting. You weren't there, but you brought in 6, 7, 8 people. It felt like a big deal. I fully intended to stay in that meeting about 15 or 20 minutes, and I had a raised flower bed that I was going to assemble during that meeting because that's what I do. Whatever. And by the discussion that we were having, that raised flower bed had to sit there.
Yeah.
And I actually was engaged in the conversation for a couple hours. And so I'm excited about.
It's the highest praise you could ever give to any. Someone held your attention span longer than 15 minutes.
I know. And I wasn't the one talking. Like I do like the microphone and all the things, but
Yeah.
That was even more exciting. And so, you talk about what are we excited about? Getting back to the basics of being in the room, being present, being able to give our clinicians the tools to do their job.
Yeah.
And we have no transferable skills. We are worthless. We don't do anything, but we're able to help, hopefully bring solutions to our providers to make their jobs easier and get them back to why they got into medicine in the first place.
Right.
Love that. Well, guys, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And
This was fun.
It was terrible. Where's my raised bed?
Yeah.